Can you hear me, everybody? Can you hear me? Hey, thanks for sticking around, everybody. Welcome. This is the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future 2 panel. All right. You know how hard it is to find a DVD in this town? Because they said you can't have a Blu-ray. So I had to go buy one because it's like, can I admit I don't own the DVD of Back to the Future? Okay, my name is Jeff Tucker. I'm the host of a podcast called 91 Reasons. And, there you go, yeah. I wrote this book called Your Friend in Time, How Back to the Future Changed My Life. Because when I was 13 and saw Back to the Future, it literally changed my life and made me want to be a writer. And when the movie was in the theaters and it ended, it didn't say to be continued. That was strictly on the video release, and I got my video the spring of '86 on beta. Fantastic. Yeah. And when it said to be continued, I lost my mind because they're going to make a sequel, right? Of course, it took 3 more years for that sequel. So, here we go. So what happened was, this is before the internet. I know, imagine a time before the internet. I called every movie theater in town to find out who had the Back to the Future 2 trailer. Thanksgiving weekend, 1989, November 22nd, I was there at the Cineplex Odeon at Universal Studios for the 12:01 showing of Back to the Future 2. I was wearing Marty's jacket because I'd had it made from stills that I had taken from that trailer that I watched 1,000 times. And we got to see a trailer, a sequel, unlike any sequel we had ever seen before, where not only is it the greatest feelings of the first film, but they go into the first film, right? Fantastic. So we've got a panel here of experts on Back to the Future. We're going to introduce them here. There we go. We'll start at the end there. All right, Dangerous Bob. There he is. Dangerous Bob comes from a third-generation film family. His granddad flew airplanes for such greats as Howard Hughes, Clark Gable, Errol Flynn, David Niven, and many more. His dad was a producer and third in charge at Desilu Studios, who gave us I Love Lucy and Star Trek. Bob proved himself in the studios first in television and then into major films. He has worked with some of the film greats and in many memorable movies. He worked on the Back to the Future trilogy with Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd. He worked on Scarface and Injustice for All with his friend Al Pacino, Harry and the Hendersons with John Lithgow and Don Amici, Psycho 2 and 3. That's right. With Anthony Perkins, Brubaker, and Legal Eagles, one of my guilty pleasures, Legal Eagles by Ivan Reitman. He's retired now and works hard all he can for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Dangerous Bob there. Woo! All right, next to him is Joe Walser. Joe Walser combined decades of motion picture art department experience with his passion for Back to the Future to become the world's leading authority on the DeLorean time machine. In 2013, he led Universal Studios' official restoration of the actual time machine vehicle used in all 3 Back to the Future movies, which is now on permanent display at the renowned Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. Yes. Joe has been directly involved in dozens of licensed Back to the Future products and projects and has co-created the world's largest Back to the Future fan celebration, including the 30th anniversary We're Going Back event in 2015. Joe Walser and his partner Michael Clostorin are taking everyone Back to the Future again, starting in 2019 with another of their epic, immersive Back to the Future celebrations. Go to we'regoingbacktothefuture.com to join the celebration mailing list. Joe Walser is also currently working with director Sam Macaroni on an epic Back to the Future themed YouTube project to release in the very near future. Joe Walser. Next to him is Michael Clostorin. Michael has served as a production unit publicist on over 60 feature films with credits including Swamp Thing, Witness, Lethal Weapon 2, Back to the Future 2 and 3, The Last Boy Scout, The People vs. Larry Flint, Star Trek Nemesis, Office Space, Zombieland, Easy A, Cooties, and Mechanic Resurrection, among many others. He served as, thank you, got a fan. He served as Vice President of Motion Picture and Television for Silver Pictures in the early 90s. His producing credits include Lethal Weapon 3 and the independent feature Noel, starring Susan Sarandon, Paul Walker, Penelope Cruz, and Alan Arkin. In 2015, plus star and author of the international top-selling History of the Back to the Future franchise, Back to the Future, the ultimate visual history. Show it there. This is the greatest Back to the Future book ever written. Every question you've ever wanted to know about Back to the Future is in that book. Right. And Michael knows what page it's on. Right?
I better.
All right. And finally, what's that? I have to read some of your bio. I have to read your. This is Chris Gore.
I want to know about Chris Gore.
That's all you need to know.
He collects ducks.
yeah.
All right, Chris Gore, everybody.
Thank you. Honored to be on the panel.
Chris, earlier today interrupted his parents' meeting, so he's not going to be here for very long. So, Chris, tell us about your memories of Back to the Future 2 before you fade away.
Oh, my God. Well, one, seeing Back to the Future 2, and I don't remember when we saw it if we knew that there was going to be a 3. Like, there wasn't. We live in an age now where every piece of movie news is just out there. We know everything. We know that there's going to be an episode 9 and whatnot. But I don't recall, and I remember thinking at the end of Back to the Future 2, my memory was, I don't know how this is going to get resolved. I have no idea. I have no idea how this was going to fix everything.
I tell you what, what happened was, before Back to the Future 2 was released, the National Enquirer posted a picture of George McFly's tombstone. And I remember getting an issue, and I worked at the video store, so all of us nerds were gathered around going, well, how could he have died before the events of the first film? I don't understand, because we had no idea what the plot was going to be. Do you remember that happening, Michael?
I do. As a publicist,
it's your job, right?
They tell me when they're not pleased. Something was in the Enquirer. So, yeah, it's not as, it wasn't as bad as it is today, where, as Chris said, there are no secrets anymore. Back then, you didn't carry a TV studio in your pocket.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Then it became bigger news.
So let's talk about the origins of Back to the Future 2. At what point did the studio say to Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, let's see about moving forward with a sequel? Because they never had one in mind.
Well, they didn't quite put it that way, but about a week or so after the movie was heading towards box office smash, Sid Sheinberg, who was the head of the studio, went to Zemeckis and Gale and said, well, let's start doing Back to the Future 2. And that wasn't necessarily something that Zemeckis or Gale were interested in doing. First of all, as Chris pointed out, or Jeff pointed out rather, there wasn't necessarily going to be a sequel because nobody expected the movie to be a hit. So they were just going along, and then suddenly it became the biggest movie of 1985. Zemeckis and Gale were not big fans of sequels, and they basically told that to Universal, and Universal said, "Okay, here's the deal. Back to the Future is our real estate. We own it. There's going to be a sequel to Back to the Future. You can be with us, or you can just come to the theater when it opens.
We are altering the deal. Right? We don't alter it any further."
That's right. So Gale and Zemeckis said, okay. They had to think fast, and they said, all right, here's the deal. If Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Lee Thompson, Tom Wilson, all those people come back.
And Crispin Glover.
And, well,
right?
Yeah, too soon.
Then we will be involved. And they went to everybody except for Crispin Glover. and everyone said yes. If Zemeckis and Gale are back, we're back.
Now, to their credit, they did hold production as long as they possibly could to try to get Crispin Glover back in the film.
They did.
Because they had every intention of having him back.
They did. They went through a number of iterations of the script where George was either alive or dead.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was both.
Can we talk about, we were talking earlier, the original script for Back to the Future 2 is much different than the one that got filmed. There was an original draft with a completely different plot.
It's not that it was a completely different plot. There were certain things that were the same, but it veered off. When they wrote the first draft of the script, they went to the future. Gail and Zemeckis said, we painted ourselves into a corner.
They have to go to the future.
We have to go to the future. We have to deal with Marty's kids. Because that was just a joke. And they got caught, and they felt when they were doing the sequel, they had to pay it off. From there, they still had the hoverboard chase and all of that stuff, and they had the sports almanac plot. So they went back to the altered 1985, which is referred to as a bit horrific. where it split off from what we would come to know was they decided that Doc would calculate that the timeline had skewed off in 1967.
Yeah.
And Bob Gale explained that they chose 1967 because in the first movie they had been to the history, the birth of rock and roll. So they thought maybe it would be fun to go to the birth of the counterculture. So Bob wrote it up. Zemeckis was off doing Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So he and Bob Gale came up with the framework. Bob Gale wrote it.
Isn't there correct me if I'm wrong, you're the man. There's a subplot where George and Lorraine are supposed to go off on this weekend together to make Marty.
That is correct.
And he ends up interrupting that.
Marty lands in jail.
Yeah, Marty's in jail.
And Lorraine uses the money that was going to pay for their honeymoon trip to bail him out. and that's where Marty made that mistake again.
It's a great idea because Bob Gale's scripts are tight, but at some point it was Zemeckis, I think, who said we have a real opportunity here, and the real opportunity is we have something that we can do that a lot of movie sequels can't do, and that's
exactly right.
Go back into the first film.
We have a time machine.
Yes,
we can go wherever we want, whenever we want. So as the 1967 piece of the script wasn't quite what they felt was the right way to go, then it was Robert Zemeckis who came up with the idea to go back into the first movie. So then it started to fall into place as the script that we know, with the exception of the fact that then Zemeckis said, I also like Westerns. So let's throw the fourth act. Let's make it a Western.
Yeah.
Bob Gale said, okay. And they ended up with an over 300-page script.
Yeah, so they went to the studio head and said, we have good news and bad news.
Well, no, first
or was it good news and great news?
First, the studio looked at it. They figured out how much it would cost to make, and it was about $65 million. And they said, we don't care what movie this is. We are not going to make this the most expensive movie ever at that time.
It seems crazy now. I mean, that's what Robert Downey Jr. makes for an Iron Man movie.
Yeah. And it would have been like a 3-hour movie. So Gale went back to Zemeckis and said, let me fool around with this. Let me see what I can do. So he fleshed out the Western, and then they said, okay. They went back to Universal, and they said, okay, we've got good news and bad news. The bad news is that we're not going to have Back to the Future 2 for the summer of 1989. Good news is we'll have Back to the Future 2 for Thanksgiving of 1989 and Back to the Future 3 for the summer of 1989. And Mr. Sheinberg, who recently left us, said that's either craziest thing or the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. and he gave them the okay to do it. And that's how Back to the Future 2 became Back to the Future 2 and 3. Nice.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see y'all. I gotta go.
So, one of the most iconic scenes in the film that wowed audiences was the dinner table scene where Michael J. Fox plays Marty McFly, Marty Jr., and Marlene McFly, and they pass food through each other and pour drinks. And Bob, you worked on that scene.
Yes, it was. Well, just to backtrack a second, we started prepping my partner in 19 or 20 of my 30-some years. John Samansky, he was preparing around this, and I was the set on this. So you never know, didn't even care if an actor could use it or not, and that's why I was there. So when we design props or things we do, I go, this won't work. I'm left-handed. If I can't do it, I can't explain it to a right-hander. And so that was my part of it, making sure that my actors could actually work the prop. And we started, just to back up on what Michael says, when I got my hand on my first script, just about 4 months before production, it was called Back from the Future. Everything in 2 and 3 was in that script. And every day you're at the set, they're going to pull the plug on it. It's $70 million. They don't have the money. And everyone's the head of the departments of wardrobe, defense, Michael Mantieri at that point. Pardon me. We're from the big trees, way up in the big redwoods, 14 hours away. It's drying us to kill me, pardon me. But, so this goes on in 1 month, I think, before we're shooting when we cut it out. All the heads of the department were in on a Friday, having our production meetings, end of the week production meeting, all the heads talking about the problems, anything we need to straighten out for next week. We get more money. And about 4 o'clock after a 4-hour production meeting, going around the table, everyone telling problems, what they've solved, what they can't solve yet. And it's called, Steven Spielberg walks in and says, Bob, Sid Sheinberg and Lou Wasserman want us to fly down. And we're going, all the heads are there, no cell phones, and we're on the phones, taking turns down at Amblin, calling our wives to stop the production of that swimming pool. Went to the hospital, going to the baby, did a cheap one, because we're out of work. At about 11 o'clock, at 10 o'clock that night, 10:30, they come down and say, what are you all doing for the next year? That's when they cut it into 2 movies. And, but getting back to that point, a lot of people don't remember that at that point. It's called Back from the Future, and everything you saw, it was a big giant script, and everything you saw in 2 and 3 was going to work just in Back from the Future. Because Bob didn't like scenes. That's why he didn't do Romancing the Stone, because they lived happily ever after. Nowhere to go after that. Now, on the self-things, on the self-leveling, what we designed, as we were going around the production table, well, this new camera thing you've got, which we can't even understand yet, because no one's seen it, how they're going to do this without something to line up, like the Patty Duke show or whatever. What happens when they pour the tea, and then it's not the same height here, and we cut here, and everything's popping on the table prop-wise? Do I have to glue the plates down? Do I have to, I mean, we can't move a thing, right? You know, oh my God, that's right. So I said, I turned to Kevin Pike, I said, we have to come up with something self-leveling when they pour it. And Kevin Pike designed that. I got to make it work. I worked with him. Yeah, I can sell this to my I'm sorry, Michael Lantieri. Yeah, I think so. The first one was Kevin Pike and Michael Lantieri, 2 and 3. But so a lot of people don't know that. And if you watch the movie, you can see when he pours it, that it comes right back and levels at the same height. So it will not pop in the scene. But you finally got to the answer. Sorry. I just wanted to make the point that no one remembers it was one script. Bob didn't like making scenes.
Biff has defeated Chris's parents, and he's no longer existing. So, goodbye, Chris. There he goes. Into the space-time continuum. So, the iconic dinner scene, it's one of the centerpieces of the movie. It seems so blasé now. We had never seen that many actors in one scene before. Because like you said, there was always a point where you could see where the lines were. And there's no lines. It's all cut so that they're interacting. And the camera moves, most importantly. That's the magic of Zemeckis, as he says, make it happen, right? And so they've got this set with all these props on it, and it's under threat of death. Anything moves for the shot, and what happens?
Earthquake.
They had an earthquake during production, so they're terrified to go in because they think they have to start all the footage over, and what happened?
We skated by. I mean, we were... Everyone was pretty scared because those scenes took days and days and days. That one dinner scene of everyone having pizza took about 2 weeks to do. And because it was on a computer-operated camera, everything had to be calibrated exactly, and it couldn't change an iota. So the earthquake could have ruined 2 weeks'
worth of shooting. So we were pleased, delighted, and thankful that nothing happened. Funny how you're any other 2 weeks on a show and you go, yeah, extra money put on that. It was such a grueling time. Plus for Jeffrey Weissman, he had hung upside down coming in. He was suffering big time. He loved it. Management, labor.
Joe, you haven't said anything. Talk about the differences. There's no differences between the DeLorean and between 1, 2, and 3.
There are, but you guys want to hear about that. I want to hear more from Dangerous Bob. Oh, you do want to hear difference? I want to hear the differences between the time machines from part 1 and part 2.
Here, I'll tell you. Here's a big difference: is that Bob was telling me that at the end of the film, after the out of time plate has spun and dropped, and the car comes back, they had no contingency plan for a license plate on the car.
Right. We number 1 in the script. Bob wanted this. No. Go ahead. Bob was. Wait. There was the license plate was different. Oh, that's right. And it comes back from the future, and it's out of time. But it's 1985. Driving around. So we're breaking for lunch, and we're getting ready to shoot the scene where Doc comes in tomorrow. And I stop him and go, Bob, the trash, the garbage we're working with, I got this deal of skanky stuff that you want. But at least I've been using dried stick with a little water in the Miller beer can because we had the Miller tie-up with that and free. And I go, so that's water, not beer, so it won't get sticky, and it's clean garbage. You want to use this tub full of crap here, excuse my language. And I go, it's going to take me 30, 40 minutes to clean that thing up. And if he gets on his wardrobe, it's going to be 2 hours to get him back in a clean wardrobe. And they have limited wardrobe. I said, can we use what we've been using in the rehearsal? And he stops and he goes, yeah, but listen, you can't be driving around in the future with a 1985 license plate. And I go, what can we do? And he goes, my mom every year gives me a subscription to Science Digest. I want underwear and socks, the things guys don't want to buy. And I said, I read a couple months ago about this new thing called a UPC. I said, something they're going to have, the cops are going to have it on your license, but you're going to scan it, you won't even need a driver's license. I'll have all your information. Items at the market, they'll just scan. And he goes, I said, if you authorize me and Jimmy passing on or standby painter working through lunch, it's like an extra $50 an hour for the next 8 hours. They hate to do that. I go, I will come up with something. He goes, do it. So I get out the Mylar, one of our old plates, and Jimmy's on the floor, and I'm like, cut this strip of this, cut this. I cut the strips, I'm sorry, hand them to him, he sprays 77, puts them on, he goes, give me a thinner one. Now the first license plate, took it to Bob at lunch. It's great. Had no numbers on it. None of the numbers you see in the final. The one on the plate when we shot it, they had ILM had actually put the right one in, which we got the next day from World Express, the real metal ones. They wanted numbers. Maybe we shot it. At least they got that. ILM had to spend extra money for that. It was probably $5,000 in post to put on the numbers on which we had to know exactly what you could buy and get online. Invented the future plate. So I invented it. Thanks to my mom, bless her heart. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. One other thing on every show, especially the first one, every newspaper you see, every title, every date, did at least 15, if not 20 times some kind of time. We did a newspaper, you shoot 2 days from now, Bob Gale come and go, that's wrong. He didn't have computers to check all this in, all the internet. He had to do things through APL labs. And the date would be off, one day would be off, that was actually a Wednesday on Tuesday. And we had to reprint everything. Unfortunately, we threw everything away that you don't use because you just don't have room in the prop truck or your warehouse. Plus, you never saw you renting anything. Yeah, so hope that answers the question.
That's good.
Okay, well, I got lost, so cleared up the differences between the time machines from the first movie and the second.
What else is different, Joe? Give us some insight.
There's insight. There's from the scene, where Doc comes in and Marty and Jennifer are there at the end of part 1, and they reshot it for part 2. The big difference is that there was some stuff missing from the car where the
guys want to know this?
Oh yeah.
All right. So
Yes.
I don't know. I dealt with it for 5 months. In the end of the first film, there was the lightning rod assembly, right? Big thing, and so they had to remove the parts where it was, and then those parts were, gone, whatever. So they, when they refilmed it, they filled that spot with an ammo box with a heat sink on it. You're welcome.
That's why people line up,
my
Joe.
book? It's not in that book. It's in the other book.
Oh,
And what's great about Back to the Future 2, why people keep watching it, is originally it was this idea of how much they got right as far as the technology goes. And they got so much of it right, and then they got a little bit of it wrong. The fax machine being probably the big one.
well, we also missed the fact that there were cell phones.
Yeah, well, who could have predicted that, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Star
the
Trek.
cell phones of 1980, 88, 89 were like the ones that radar used in Korea on MASH. It's like a big pack over your shoulder. But that was, you would say, hey, where am I calling? Guess where I'm calling from?
But they got flat screen TVs.
We got that. But the point is, we weren't trying to predict anything. These were all jokes. I mean, they had people come in and they said, well, here's where some things seem to be headed in terms of technology.
Right.
So
Like the
they-
self-walking dog.
Right.
That's a great gag.
That was a big one.
That's why we had a big dog with that harness.
Oh, I bet.
Would have lifted a chihuahua right off the ground.
Michael, maybe you can answer this. And I'm putting you on the spot, so I apologize. But there seems to be, in a lot of Back to the Future 2, the editing is real choppy. And it seems like that was like a choice to make the future scenes seem a little more fast and fast-paced. Example, when Marty plays Wild Gunman, it's very choppy from, he doesn't walk to the video game. He looks at it, and then he's at the video game. And then he's pulling the gun. I've seen this movie a lot, folks. And he's pulling the, it's very choppy.
You want me to get the editors on the phone?
What's that?
I can call the editors right
Yeah,
now.
well, I mean, I've seen them. Those are great guys, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
May I say something about that scene? I think it's the same area anyway. Michael and all of this. My favorite scene in the movie from a craft editing direction standpoint is in the mall shop. We have the 80s. When he's playing his son, right when Griff comes in, he's stuck behind the counter, right there on the floor. And Griff comes in, and then they cut to the long shot after the master here, and you see Michael crawling back behind the counter.
Yeah.
One thing Bob always knows, you might do 15, 20 takes, and 19 of those he says, perfect, let's do it again. He always knows where he's at. And the departments get lost sometimes, but where are my props? Where did the spoon be on the counter? Where would the bowl of cornflakes be, or whatever? But that scene to me is perfection in filmmaking, because he always knew where he was at, like he does all the time. But that was so critical. You just see in the background that little bit of the hole that tied the whole scene. My favorite scene.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Editing, especially direction,
And-
especially on the long days we have.
And I think what the choppiness that you mentioned, or the style of the editing, is that there was so much information that had to be given at that moment in the film, because it had to establish Marty and young Marty, and Griff, and old Biff, and then Elijah Wood popped in for a minute.
Going on outside under that.
What's going on outside with Griff, and then the fight and Griff's gang. I mean, everything was going on, and then that ultimately led into the hoverboard chase.
Yeah.
So to get through all of that, if you took it at a leisurely pace,
Oh,
it
yeah.
would have taken another hour.
That'd have been fine with me.
And you have to remember, any time in that shot where you had any hint or a piece of the outside, you had to back up hundreds of people, cars, you name it, to actually make it all match later. So
Right.
it was a very difficult set to even work on.
And there's great social commentary in it where Doc talks about eliminating all lawyers. The trash in the alley is laser discs and breast implants. You can surf Vietnam. It's really, really packed with a lot of stuff in there. It was one of those movies that the minute I saw it on the big screen, I was like, I'm going to have to see this a lot. And then I bought the laser disc and I watched it frame by frame just so I could see everything. And even then, there's still stuff that I missed because they finally put it out. They re-released it digitally so that you could see all three together. And I saw something I'd never seen before, and that's when Marty is back in the Biff Hellacious 85, Biff Horrific, and he's running down the street. All of the houses have Biffco Realty signs on them.
That's right.
And it sets up the fact that the house that he breaks into says, you tell them we're not going to sell. And I'd never even put that together, that Biff is buying the whole neighborhood for whatever nefarious reason, but these people aren't going to sell, and that's Marty's house.
And you know what those fails were in the alley? Everything Universal could sell on Laserdisc, DVD,
No, just laser
no,
discs.
CDs. I brought home a CD, like the Voodoo Dolls or whoever it was, and scratched and played. But all that was stuff they were taking to the dump or recycling.
Yeah.
And all that set resin was basically decorated.
Well, it's great because it looks futuristic.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
does.
it does exactly what it's supposed to do.
So,
But I loved going back into the first film, seeing Whittier High return as the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. All those great moments where Marty passes himself, knocks himself out with the door. And it's just great because you really get the camaraderie between Marty and Doc in this film. They're really good friends. And that's one of the biggest takeaways from the movie, is that it's the movie that Doc's in full control of the time machine, right? It can go through time at will because of the Mr. Fusion. They're not limited by the plutonium. And he's helping Marty with this horrible problem with this almanac that's been stolen, right? And another thing that, again, I've seen the movie a lot. Every once in a while, something just picks up in my head, right? Biff shows the matches for his auto detailing at the beginning, you know? I want to show you these new matchbooks I made. That's so that when it changes at the end, from Biff's hotel to Biff's auto detailing, Marty has matches to light the almanac on fire. I never picked up on that until a recent viewing. And that's why I watched them again and again and again.
does anybody know whose high school that was we shot at?
I do.
Yes, I do. Only thing I ever tagged in my life. You'll see Dangerous Bob spray painted on the side when Marty walks up. And whose high school was it? Nixon. That's right. Only thing I ever tagged in my life.
Hey, we're down to our last 15 minutes. We can open it up to questions if anybody has any questions. These guys know everything about Back to the Future, so you can go to the mic, you can stand up and yell, sir.
Why does Back to the Future 3 seems like much more water, much more robust movie than Back to the Future 2?
Why does Back to the Future 3 seem like a more robust film than Back to the Future 2?
Well,
It's telling a different tale.
well, it's telling a different tale, but it's sort of reflected in the experiences that we had shooting it. Back to the Future 2 was darker. All the special effects were cutting edge, state of the art, and they took so long to accomplish. We were in sound stages 15, 16 hours a day, working night after night after night after night because Michael was still doing Family Ties. Back when we got to Back to the Future 3, because also we didn't stay at Universal, we built Hill Valley of 1885 from the ground up in Northern California. We were suddenly out in nature. We were out in this sprawling, beautiful country, and we were in a Western. So the tone shifted between the two movies.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
On the first one, we only got Michael like on Friday nights, not much, like before 10 or 11 at night. And when we were shooting the mall, we would come in 10 in the morning, it was at 9 for props, and we would shoot 12 hours till 10, 11 at night when we get them. And then we would shoot all night long with him, and then they would tarp in the DeLorean and we'd shoot 24 to 26 hours with 2 meals. And those were long days for us, and even as long for Michael too, and he never dropped a beat. Those 24, 26-hour days, those Fridays, it's like he had to shoot his show. During the week, we get him like 6, sometimes 2 in the afternoon on Monday. We just go to read through. But he was still working 18 hours another set. So we still working a 24-hour day. That kid. And, I can tell you this much about who you see with Michael. You can all say this. You see in an interview exactly who he is in real life.
Yeah. Really nice guy.
Exactly. It ain't different for the camera.
Yes, sir.
Without being too political, wanted to mention some of the things you got right, and then I heard that Bitforific era was based on Donald Trump. Can you speak to that?
Everybody wants to make that work, but no, it was
They
not.
quoted Bob Gale as saying it.
It's been debunked by Tom Wilson himself. Yeah, sorry. But great, huge question. Lovely. All right.
Why so blue?
All right, Dr. Hank McCoy, I'm a huge fan of your pioneering work in time travel. Okay. If you had a DeLorean, would you drive it a lot or only from time to time?
The question is, if you had a DeLorean, would you drive it a lot or just from time to time?
I get it. Thank you. We are always.
But also a lot. That depends on if it was working.
Just got
at
a
the time.
DeLorean, so. The DeLorean I have is a pedal car, so I can't really go that far in it.
Now, when I had my time machine, I used to take it everywhere. 7-Eleven, get milk, whatever. People are like, "Did you drive this here?"
It's like
Yes.
80s or any antique car or classic car. How you build it back is how it's going to run. Carrie and Oliver Hahn, one of the biggest contributors to the Fox Foundation, take their time machine all over the world for the Fox Foundation, and they drive it probably close to 80,000 miles a year. And drive it, that's their only car. They drive around, and when they're back on their ranch doing their art projects, they make it.
Seeing a DeLorean on the freeway just makes you happy. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question. Anybody? Yes, right here at the front. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
All right, one more question. Right there. Are you the Time Lord? Yeah, the Time Lord. It's a great question. Please come get a copy of my book. Yeah, no, I'm serious.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Here's what I would say. Now, I actually work in the theme park industry, so I'm a little biased, but I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I love The Simpsons. Hate that ride. Because it's 2D animation in the queue and 3D animation on the ride, and it makes no sense. Your brain hurts riding that ride.
But to their credit, they did get Christopher Lloyd.
Absolutely.
And play Doc
they
Brown
pay homage.
turning over the lease.
Yeah, they pay homage to it.
So
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's
same
exactly
ride.
the same ride. So if you plug your ears and close your eyes,
I say one last thing. Why I truly believe this, from the bottom of my heart, my wife will agree because she started our charity, Fox Foundation, Dangerous fan base. And I believe of all Star Wars, Knight Rider, Ghostbusters, we're a cut above, and only because we have the greatest head of our fan base, Michael, who has infirmaries that a lot of us couldn't even think about. And he's got more energy than anyone I know. And he works around the world for the betterment of our society. And that's why I believe we're very blessed.
You think? No?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, we have a couple minutes. All right. Yeah.
here all day.
I was going to say, so I saw Back to the Future 2 1201, November 22nd, 1989, and later that day I went and saw it again, and I saw it again a few more times that weekend. I never get tired of watching it. I make my kids watch it all the time. They can attest to that. I quote dialogue from it. And like Bob was saying, it's one of the greatest fandoms to be involved with because everybody is so nice. And I'm just a guy who liked a movie and wanted to be in the movie like nothing I had ever seen before. And now I get to rub elbows with the people who worked on the film and were instrumental in restoring the time machine. And I couldn't be happier in that fandom. And the only sucky part is there's not a lot to collect. There's not a lot to buy. And I grew up as a Star Wars guy who bought everything. And there's no Back to the Future bed sheets or curtains because I would have had all that.
No, but there are some hoverboard skateboards left over from the 30th anniversary. They're officially licensed and they're extremely limited. And you can buy one tomorrow down at the Peterson exhibit. There's only like a couple left. So Madrid worked with us to recreate Marty's board and the pink hoverboard and the whole gang. How much time do we have? Really?
About 3 minutes.
Okay. So there's that. And also, Michael Plastering and I are going to be having another Back to the Future fan celebration in October. And tickets will go on sale soon. And also, Dangerous, you told me the cool story about the pizza hydrator, the food hydrator, and I think they would like to hear that.
Okay, how many people know, the little ones that they put in?
But you have 3 minutes.
They were real. We had the Pizza Hut's going on tonight, the Shakey's. Pizza Hut girls, bakers and stylists, their whole kitchen on our stage. And they made the big ones, Bob approved, and the little ones were real. Now, the bags we made up ahead of time were about half the size of the ones you see in the movie. They had about that much space on each side, and Bob approved that. Well, when we're rehearsing, and she's pulling out the big pizza, he goes, "That's too big. It's not enough difference between the other one coming out." I go, "Well, Bob, the package is only, I could make them smaller, but I goes, I need a small package." Once again, can you authorize me working through lunch and having meal bill in 10 more hours? Thank you. Yes. So I was freaking out because I made those up through Earl Hayes and I cut them to that size of Bob approved, still too big. And I got my heat thing out and I cut them with a razor right down to where you see it, almost right up to the logo. Had the gals make me a pizza that would fit exactly like the big ones. And I took them to them at lunch and said, "That's as small as they can be unless you want me to screw up the logo, and then they're going to hate us." And he goes, "And here's the little piece. It's perfect." And I was behind there with an effects man on the floor, and when she put that one in, we did it. They had made 10 pizzas, probably 40 pizzas to get that scene when it came out. And I'm back there. I'm holding the pizza. Effects man is using A&B solution for the smoke, which is illegal to use on the stage, but they'll do anything for Steven and Bob's. And you will. And not fast enough. "Okay, Bob, well, they wiggle and they're going to fall, and we got furniture pads and we're all down there behind there." And finally, I'd say, 30, 40 takes, Michael, till we got that right.
Oh, yeah.
That many pizzas thrown in the trash, and it's the reason you won't see them actually eat them in the scene, because it's poison. A lot of people don't know, those little ones are real. And like I said, once again, anything you made for that movie, not twice order, it all changed the day of the shoot. And now I wish we would save all those newspapers we threw away and flyers with the wrong date, because what a great thing, wouldn't that be? Jeff, wouldn't that be
Absolutely. I'll take them today, sure.
More of that than what we actually use.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you guys for being on the panel. We have Danger Bob, Joe Walser, Michael Plastering. I'm Jeff Tucker, and thanks for coming out, and thanks to my family for putting up with so much Back to the Future stuff, because every time I come home, I go, "Hello, hello, hello. Have you seen my glasses?" I quote it all day, so God bless them. Have a great con, everybody. Happy WonderCon. Be careful in the future.